Alright, everybody, welcome back. So if y'all pay attention to the news, Gaijin does of course go ahead and do smaller patches throughout the weeks and the months in between updates. And they just went ahead and released one yesterday, and this went ahead and actually nerfed the Gripen's flight performance. This was expected. The Gripen was performing extremely well, both in terms of statistics and in terms of flight performance. Previously, it could beat basically any jet in the game in a 1v1, at least in typical air or B, and I'll get to that here in a second. Well, they went ahead and they nerfed it by about half a degree per second of sustained turn rate, at least at max. And to be honest, it doesn't make that big of a difference. If you just came to see exactly how the Gripen has changed, it hasn't changed that much. It went from being able to beat any jet in a 1v1 to being able to beat almost any jet in a 1v1. And that wasn't even the real performance, because 1v1s don't happen that often in ARRB. The Gripen itself is still very strong because it gets 6 AIM-9Ms with HMD and 700 countermeasures in those BOL pods. That's always been why it's been so strong, of course, when combined with that flight performance, and it still has that exact same formula. So to explain a little bit more about what I mean, the sustained turn rate of the Gripen wasn't exactly the best out of every plane in the game. However, it could beat everything in a dogfight, at least in ARRB. And to get at what that means, your sustained turn rate, at least the maximum sustained turn rate, is actually typically at a much higher speed than you get just from holding the full elevator, right? Now, in War Thunder, most of the time you are going to be doing full, almost full deflection, right? You're going to be holding S, you're going to be pointing your mouse where you want to go. You're not sitting there sustaining a specific airspeed as you're turning. And so previously, the F-16 could beat the Gripen in a rate fight if you sustained its maximum, turn rate speed, which was like, I want to say like 800, 900 kilometers an hour or something like that, which realistically you're not going to be doing in game. Sure, you can break out full reel, or you can go ahead and push the nose down periodically with W, but realistically you are both not going to be doing that in an actual ARRB match. And it also puts it at a massive disadvantage. In the meantime, all the Gripen has to do is just yank his nose around and fire off a 9M, and you may not be able to flare depending on the aspect, right? And the Gripen previously was in a position where it could just hold S and win against basically any jet in the game, at least in a 1v1. And so that meant that if you did happen to get sucked into one, you were pretty much out of luck. And so you had this combination of a plane with tons of countermeasures, a pretty light heat signature, and 6 AIM-9Ms, which allow you to ripple them off just like you do right here. And then if you did happen to catch it off guard, as long as it had a competent pilot, it could probably just rinse you in the 1v1. Now at least it's closer than it was before. I've talked to some better duelists than I, and it seems like the F-16 Block 10, so the lightest F-16, may win against the Gripen now. I don't want to say it 100% does, but it seems like it could. And so other planes as well are going to be closer than they were, but essentially nothing has changed, because pretty much everything that you would win against before, you're going to win against now, except for maybe the Block 10 F-16, like I said. And like I said before, that slight change in flight performance isn't really going to make that big of a deal in terms of ARRB, because realistically, the most effective way to use the Gripen, at least if you want to rack up a lot of kills, is just to go above people and fire off 9Ms when they're not looking, like a little stinking rat. And the Gripen's ability to do this has basically not been affected at all. I'd probably still say that even after this nerf, the Gripen is the most meta jet in ARRB, at least for this patch. That will probably change next update with the addition of the AMRAAM and the fact that it can only carry 4 of them, but that remains to be seen, and unfortunately for now, we don't have them. So you probably noticed by this point, I am actually playing the Hungarian Gripen. This is a new addition this patch, but you're not missing out on anything if you don't have it. For now, at least, it is completely copy and paste with the South African one. Of course, this Gripen C does get more countermeasures than the Gripen A, so if you really want to, you can go ahead and grind this tree for this, but the biggest thing is for the Italian players, this is a massive, massive W. The Italian air tree has had a huge glow up as of late. So you already had, of course, the best F-104s in the game. Then Italy got the F-16 and the Tornado, so if you want those, you're good to go. Italy also has the AV-8B+, which the US doesn't have and still doesn't have for some reason. And now, of course, they've gotten the MiG-29 and the Gripen as part of their Hungarian line. They also have the Eurofighter in the future as well, and this leaves the Italian tree in a very good spot. You can grind one tree and have access to the majority of airframes that you want without having to grind out, the Americans for the F-16 or the British or the Germans for the Eurofighter. Honestly, if you're just playing air, I'd recommend over Sweden as well. Although if you are playing ground, the Italian ground tree is nowhere near as good as the Swedish, unfortunately. Speaking of ground, this does bring some pretty nice casts for Italy as well, and it gets the new AGM-65H and AGM-65G missiles. So the H has the same warhead as the ones that we're already used to on other Mavericks, the heat warhead, just has better tracking. But the big one that I'm excited about is the AGM-65G, because this has a SAP warhead, and that is kind of a big deal. Because if any of y'all have used the Maverick before, you'll know that the typical Maverick is infamous for having piss poor damage. I mean, you'll have tons of times where you'll hit somebody and only kill their engine, only kill their driver. I've even had cases where I had a friendly fire them at me on purpose, joking about it not doing damage, and it actually did that and I survived the hit. This SAP or semi-armor piercing warhead is so much better when it comes to damage. Like, it's not even funny just how much better it is. I've had incredibly reliable damage so long as I fire from above them so it comes down on their turret, because it does have quite a bit less penetration. So it's not just going to be able to punch straight through the upper frontal plate of a tank, like the heat warhead could do sometimes, and you may get lucky with overpressure, but it's better just not to risk it and just come straight down from above. Of course, you do also still carry two AIM-9Ms as well, along with those Mavs, and the 9M is absolutely lethal in ground RB. Same for Sim, of course, and it's because both of these don't have markers. And the smokeless motor, although it is technically still visible and you can see it launched, it is incredibly difficult. And so you are going to have a ton of cases just like that right there where the pilot, at least the enemy pilot, simply does not see the missile. And so they just keep flying straight without even flaring, which should probably defeat anyways, because they have no idea missiles being fired at them. Hope you enjoyed the video. This Gripen nerf was kind of desperately needed. The Gripen has been in a very, very strong position for months now, honestly. I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. I was expecting a nerf much quicker than we have gotten one. And honestly, I have a feeling we'll probably still get more nerfs in the future, although, of course, we'll have to see exactly how things turn out. In any case, so what are your thoughts on the Hungarian Gripen? Or do you like the fact that Italy has all these Hungarian vehicles now, or is it just annoying because copy and paste? If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.